Eamon Khan here for Seconds Out with the Sun boxing reporter Wally Downes Jr. all the way over in Riyadh. So nice you have to do it twice in a matter of weeks back for the Queensberry versus Matchroom 5v5 card, Eddie Hearn versus Frank Warren. Wally, I'll get you your sense of the buzz again immediately off of the back of the undisputed heavyweight fight into Taylor Catchwell, now into this Matchroom versus Queensberry 5v5, which has had a lot of hype. What's the feeling surrounding the buzz for the type amongst the fighters and also the public over here in the UK and over in Saudi?
I think probably this show has been a victim of the undisputed success. You know, we waited 25 years for an undisputed heavyweight world title fight, and then 2 weeks after it, we have this show. So this sort of 30-year Hearn versus Warren rivalry, which would have been such a big deal. The fact is, come 2 weeks after that, it's probably taken a bit of the gloss off of it, which is not that obviously no one's fault. Fury Usyk should have happened in February, which would have given a lot more breathing space. So yeah, I still feel it's a brilliant card. I think all the fights are so tough to call. And the good thing is, like, it's a proper trade. It's a proper trade card as well. Like, yeah, it's exciting. We had the sort of madness of John Fury the other fight week, whereas this is really the opposite. Just 6 very good competitive bouts, not too much padding on the undercard. Ray Ford's world title on the line for Nick Ball. The carrot of the potential AJ September Wembley show for the winner of Hrgovic Dubois. And again, I think the hope was, or the idea was, that might be for the vacant IBF title. I don't think that's going to be the case now. But yeah, mate, incredibly excited. Very hot. Yeah. Listen, I don't know what the buzz is. Listen, among boxing fans, to see Eddie versus Frank is massive. It's a bit of a shame they're so nice to each other now. But yeah, it'd be good to see. And I think, again, what one thing that would have changed it a little bit is it's such a British rivalry. That because Eddie and the Zone and Matchroom are now sort of more of a global brand, whereas Frank concentrates on British boxing. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's lost. It's not lost anything. It's they're great fights, but sort of growing up, you would associate sort of Eddie with Team GB and the Tony Sims gym, the Matchroom gym, and Frank with the Peacock and the iBox at the moment. So yeah, a little bit of that has been taken away, but then again, that's just being completely selfish as a British boxing reporter and a British boxing fan. But yeah, looking forward to every one of the fights. I think they're more or less all 50-50s.
Breaking down some of these fights, and we'll start off with the heavyweight British interest in the form of Daniel Dubois taking on Filip Hrgovic. Depending on who I speak to, I kind of get a different feeling surrounding the thoughts of Filip Hrgovic and where he stands in the heavyweight division. Some people say he's a avoided heavyweight who's kind of been unfortunate with, you know, the undisputed being contested for, so he hasn't had his opportunity, and he's a good, credible heavyweight. But others have said to me that they feel he's a manufactured fighter who's been in that position and won't be seen as one of those, you know, good quality heavyweights, and maybe won't fulfill his destiny of winning a world title. Where do you stand on Hrgovic and Dubois' chances of success coming off the back of his loss to Usyk, his rebuild win over Miller, and now into this fight?
Well, this will be the fight that everyone finds out about Hrgovic, really, because I'm in a similar boat to you. A lot of the young British lads that I know that sparred him quite early on reckon he was so good. He was getting billed as the new Klitschko. We got an interview with him a little while ago, and I put that to him. You know, that we haven't seen the best of you. People were regarding you as the new Klitschko, and he said, "Fuck that! I'm better than Klitschko. Klitschko only threw 2 punches, 1-2 and a hold, 1-2 and a hold." Yeah, listen, we haven't seen that Hrgovic at all, really. There's been some underwhelming performances. I think going into the Zhang fight in Saudi, he lost his dad, who'd been a massive influence. But yeah, I've heard all the great stuff about how good he is, how tough he is, how dangerous he is, how avoided he is, but I definitely haven't seen that really backed up in the ring. I think so. Yeah, if he fulfills all of his promise, then I think it's a really tough night for Daniel. Because I think he was in a competitive, tough fight with Jarrell Miller, and if I was to put Jarrell Miller in with Hrgovic tomorrow, I think Hrgovic would punch his head in. So again, from a completely selfish British angle, I'm desperate for Daniel to pull it out the fire, pull it out the bag, and I think it would be incredible if he did. And he doesn't like doing interviews, but even he said in the build up to this one, he feels he's come through all of the demons now, and he said, twice you've seen me go down and take a knee. It will never happen again. He's learned from those, and now he knows what he's about. So I really hope that's the case. Because again, I really like Daniel, but I get this buzz from Hrgovic that sort of no nonsense. I know he's boxing for Matchroom, but we sort of asked him about that, and he doesn't feel he's part of a team or doing anything. He's here to smash through Daniel Dubois and finally get his long overdue IBF title shot, whenever that will actually happen now, if he wins.
We'll talk about the IBF title situation later on. Moving forward to another British interest in the form of Nick Ball takes on Ray Ford, trying to get a second bite of capturing a world title after the draw against Ray Vargas. You feel he's in tougher this time round against Ray Ford, who might be pushing it a little bit at the weight after having confessed that he wanted to move up as soon as possible, taking the risk in the form of the money to get himself back down, for the reward of the money to get himself back down at the weight. Do you feel Nick can capitalize upon that and crown himself world champion?
If you're ever going to need to cut weight, this is the place to be doing it, mate. The heat is unbelievable. So if you're going to be able to do it at his age, I think we saw with Joe Cordina trying to make the weight out here 2 weeks ago. He just couldn't do it, but maybe that's his age and staying at the weight for too long. Whenever a fighter says that, admits to it, it is always a worry. It's almost like, when a fighter starts saying, I'm retiring soon, or this is my last fight, you sort of worry that their eyes aren't on it anymore. So, again, I think on form, I know a lot of people felt Nick Ball won that Vargas fight, and that he boxed really well. Again, I just think on form, on potential, you would have to back Ray Ford. But yeah, you're right about weight. Nick is such a little pit bull of a man that he's going to chase him around the ring. And if there is any element of him really having, I know the term is horrible, if he's killed himself to get down to it, then the last thing you want to be looking across the ring and seeing is a Nick Ball who I'm sure has been having breakfasts, nice big breakfasts all week long, and having no trouble. So, yeah, it's a from that sense, it's a good opportunity, and it's a massive step up for Nick when you look at Ray Ball and the sort of potential that he's had. Because Nick's come from nowhere really. So, yeah, big ask, a tough ask, but Frank Warren seems very, very keen, and I suppose they should be as well after the Vargas, because he never looked in trouble. He looked dangerous. So yeah, if Ford has hung around the division for too long, for one fight too long, maybe like Cordina did, someone like Nick Ball will find out and show it up.
What sense have you got from Deontay Wilder? Because there's a lot of question marks about him and whether he's got both feet in the sport right now, considering some of the things he's done to find peace outside the ring. He's proclaiming that the Bronze Bomber is back and that the Saudis have wanted him to really kind of dig deep and refine that. And he says he's found that, but I don't know if you're sold on that heading into
No,
this
not
fight
at all.
this
I find
weekend
it so dull. I find it boring. Yeah, just says that all the time, doesn't he? I'm back. The bad man's back. I think people have worked him out. Don't get me wrong. I think it's very obvious that Zhilei Zhang, at his age and his size, he's got about 4 rounds before Wilder should win. But I think if we see the Joe Joyce Zhang, and even the one who started well against Joseph Parker, if that Zhang turns up and sticks it on Wilder, I know Malik Scott's training philosophies and that are quite popular, but I think it's quite risky to try and turn a 37, 38 Wilder. Suddenly we want to turn him into a boxer. It's not for me, really. So yeah, if Wilder's still in there after 5-6 rounds, he should win, because we've seen how quickly Zhang tires. But yeah, this whole... But listen, the minute he says, "I'm going to body on my record," I just think he's a sap anyway. It's just about the worst thing you could say. Says it for attention. He didn't throw a punch against Joseph Parker, did he? A meaningful punch in the whole fight. So he doesn't want to body on his record that badly. And I think he's, everything, all these fights are happening out here with Saudi and Turkey. The one thing that maybe will play in his favour is I think he's on his last legs with them out here, because I think the Parker performance, I'm pretty sure it's saying that his performance against Parker was booed. I know there's a lot of talk about the atmospheres in the arenas. I'm pretty sure he was booed from relatively early on. So the Saudi audience isn't sold on Deontay Wilder. Maybe that will liven him up. Maybe he'll come out all guns blazing. But I'm not sold on all this. I'm reborn and I'm tough again. Listen, great story. Came from nowhere. Changed his life. A dozen children. I'm not really sure. I just think it's an easy thing to say, isn't it? In every interview, in every press conference, "Oh, I'm back. I've tapped into the bronze bomber's back." Well, yeah, I don't know how much could have changed really. So yeah, I fancy Zhang for that. I fancy Zhang for that one, but I think you'll have to do it early because the old gas tank will go.
Just to run through the rest of them, who's coming out the victor overall?
Sorry, son, say it again.
Just to run through the rest of them, who are you backing to get the victory overall, Matchroom or Queensberry?
Do you know what I did? Someone asked me the other day. I think it'll be tight, and I think it'll come down to maybe what the captains get. I'm confident in Hamza Shiraz. I think Willie Hutchinson and I fancy Craig Richards for that one, really. The level that Craig's looked good at, even in defeats against Bivol Reazzi, he's proven that he deserves to be at that level. And I think being with Shane McGuigan will have only improved him in a way that it did someone like Daniel Dubois. Like, you go to Shane McGuigan, you improve. Josh Taylor's best days were completely under Shane McGuigan. I do think that just on paper and on form that Matchroom should win. But I wouldn't be surprised if Queensberry pulled it off. It's quite funny. I think, I know it's just Eddie versus Frank, but I think Frank would be able to be more proud because I feel like his is more of a homegrown stable. The idea that Deontay Wilder is fighting for Eddie Hearn is a bit of a joke, isn't it, really? They can't stand each other. Eddie spent 5-6 years at complete war with Shelley Finkel, calling him funny names. So, yeah, I think, if Eddie wins, Matchroom would have beaten Queensberry, but if it comes down to Deontay Wilder knocking Zhang out, I don't know, I think the victory might be, a little, not hollow, but I think Frank could probably take more professional pride in doing it because, barring Zhang, that's a proper homegrown stable.
We'll open the door to a couple of things in the wider boxing sphere before I let you get out of the heat. First of all, you alluded to the IBF situation, and the undisputed rematch is confirmed. That's set for later on this year, December 21st, Usyk and Fury 2. but we're not fully certain of the situation regarding the IBF title. Do you feel that the IBF, they've written to Usyk's team, have written for an exemption? I've spoke to Thomas Hauser, who feels that the IBF should acquiesce in their rules, which they're strict to adhering to, and allow it to be for the full 4 belts. Do you feel that'll be the situation, or do you feel that the IBF are kind of backs against the wall here and have to, go through with their rules?
I think it needs to be taken into consideration that ever since you got these new designer glasses, you've started using terms like boxing sphere.
Well, they keep it different, the vernacular.
Yeah. Oh, you've really not taken it up a notch, son. Listen, it's an awkward one, isn't it? The IBF deserves some credit for making their ranking system and the people that pay their sanctioning fees get what they pay for. If you remember, but they stripped Fury so quickly after beating Klitschko 9 days after he did that to fight a useless mandatory. Remember the mandatory that Josh Taylor was made to fight at York Hall? It was embarrassing. It lasted 1 round. No disrespect to the dude Canelo's been told to fight for his mandatory next. Maybe I'm just a rubbish boxing journalist. I don't think he's a worthy Canelo opponent. So as much as there's respect for the IBF for enforcing what they do and not just being bent over like some of the other sanctioning bodies seem to be when there's money on the table, I think that fight was so good that it deserves to be for undisputed again. I think Fury deserved a shot at being undisputed again. Usyk deserves to retain undisputed again. I appreciate Hrgovic has probably been mandatory and due it 18 months, maybe even longer than that, 2 years. But I don't feel he's put in this, and he's won all his fights, but I don't think anyone's banging down the door for him to get that IBF world title shot or any world title shot. I wouldn't be surprised. Listen, I think Hrgovic has been doing interviews out here where he's sort of rejecting the idea that it won't be for the IBF belt. And from what I understand, I flew out with a couple of members of his team, of Daniel Dubois' team, and they're going to be fighting until the first bell. I would assume that perhaps an interim belt might end up being on the line by the time the bell goes. Maybe an interim belt on the line for Saturday, and when AJ fights the winner of Hrgovic Dubois, maybe that is for the. I don't know. I really don't know. But the IBF have taken on Turkey Al Sheikh and Saudi before when they stripped Opatay, so they're not kowtowing to him. They've shown some they've stuck to their guns, so they're not just doing everything that he asks. So maybe they'll push it, but yeah, personally, I don't think that having Hrgovic and Dubois for a world title, no one is ever going to think that it isn't Fury and Usyk who are the absolute governors at the minute. So I get it. He's paid all of his sanctioning fees. He's waited patiently. He deserves his shot. But yeah, I think it would be a shame after that fight a couple of weeks ago for both men if the second one isn't undisputed. I think enough things can be weaseled around, the use of a better term. If I had your glasses, I would have thought of something so much better than that. But there's enough sort of skullduggery from the sanctioning bodies that letting those two men fight for the undisputed again. We've waited 25 years. What's it, 7 months till December 21? There's no damage on Hrgovic. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I would be more than happy to see it be for undisputed, and then straight after that, let all the sanctioning bodies jump in and start divvying them up.
We'll get
and I just think that even if the IBF strip him and put it up, I think fans won't care for that IBF belt anymore. I think it'll almost be a little bit of a discredit to it. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong.
We'll get a resolution on that at some point before the undisputed or rematch happens December 21st for sure. I'm not so certain though we'll get a resolution on the battle between Frank Warren and Anthon Yarde regarding their contractual situation. They're in dispute resolution now as to figure out what's the status there of Anthon Yarde. Have you had any conversations with Frank regarding that situation, and where do you feel that will end up as well?
I think Frank Warren has been doing this for long enough with our bigger names than Anthon Yarde, with all due respect to Anthony, that he will know what's written in his contracts. He will know how many fights he's got left. I would be very, very surprised if Anthon Yarde and his legal team have the paperwork to beat Frank in a legal battle. Frank seems incredibly calm and relaxed on the fact that Anthon Yarde has one fight at least left, and I think matching rights if Anthony does decide to go somewhere else. And listen, I think it's a bizarre time for Anthon Yarde to rock the boat with Queensberry and Frank Warren. Barring the two very good Lyndon Arthur fights, he's essentially had 2 world title shots and a load of pushovers. And he deserved those pushovers because he'd had 12 amateur fights. He's learned on the job. So I'm not trying to be disrespectful in that sense, but I think if Josh Buatsi had have been given Anthony Yarde's opportunities, I think Buatsi would have been a world champion. So perhaps Anthony should look at that and think, these guys haven't done too bad by me. And also Frank is out here now making these fights in Saudi Arabia. So if Anthony wants to be well paid and be in big fights, I find it a really, really strange move. And but both big Arsenal fans. I've seen Anthony regularly in Frank's box. I think there was a good personal relationship there, and I'm pretty sure that Frank. I'm sure Frank has had massive fallouts with some of the biggest boxers in British history. I'm sure this could be repaired. I would imagine, fighters get bigger and more successful, more people join the entourage, more managers get involved, more advisors. I can't see Frank Warren losing this one, mate, to be honest. And that's a worry for Anthony Yarde's career because, came close against Kovalev, wasn't fit enough. Gave Beterbiev great rounds, proved his mettle because I think a lot of people see the giggling and the pad work and they wondered whether he had the heart of a fighter, and I think he massively proved that he did. I was really excited for him and Buatsi. I'd be really excited for him and anyone in that division. I'd love to, but I think he's taken on the legal battle with Frank Warren at this time is not going to end well for Anthony Yarde.
And very lastly,
but hopefully they get all sorted out because I think they've done great work together. It'd be a shame for it to end on a bad note.
And very lastly, talking of developments, the latest one, and it seems like we're forever talking about drugs and performance-enhancing substances in boxing. Ryan Garcia is in a fight with his legal team to clear his name and prove that it was contamination that led to ostarine being found in his system. His team are now looking to agree on a ban of 4 months or less moving forward so Ryan can return to the ring as soon as possible. Do you feel this is a fruitful avenue for Ryan and his team to go down? Do you feel this will prove to the public that he wasn't taking any substances intentionally?
I think my only two sort of takeaway points from whatever the most recent developments are that the 2 supplement samples that they sent were not unopened, were not completely sealed. And if they're trying to prove he was contaminated, he suffered a contamination, then why did they go berserk with these hair follicle tests the other day that showed he had nothing in his system? So if they're now saying he was a victim of contamination, are they saying that the hair follicle test was phony or fake or what? I think it's deep. Yeah. Don't really even want to talk about it too much when there's 6 great fights here. Let Ryan Garcia prove his innocence properly or face a serious ban because he missed the weight and he's failed 2 tests.
Fair enough, Wally. Appreciate your thoughts, and it'll be a good conversation. Enjoy the 5v5. Hopefully, I'll see you back in the UK very, very soon.